Felix, good morning to this pre-market live. I hope you've enjoyed your long weekend if you are in the US. And well, markets are taking a little bit of a dip this morning, but I don't think it means what most people think it means. All the headlines are like, oh, markets is figuring out which way to go and that sort of thing. I think fundamentally we are still bullish as a bullish one can be. Now, of course, none of the following is financial advice. I've already told you that. And by the way, also, literally tomorrow, a couple hours later than this, we're running a live webinar, live trading training. I'll show you my entire strategy and I'll trade live with you. You can ask me questions, different formats of this. You have to sign up. It won't be on YouTube. felixschwenzer.com/webinar. There's still a couple of spots available. Get your paws on them. So markets, yes, down a little bit, but down 1/3% across all indices is nothing when you are in a rally like this. And I put two charts into our community just, and there's a link somewhere down below if you want to find them. Now, this light blue line here is the amount of money that's flown into stocks. The dark blue line up here is the amount of money that's flown into money markets, that's bonds, and the orange line, the amount of money that's flown into government bonds. And I've been talking to you about, for 9 months now, about the beauty of buying bonds in a market like this. And obviously everybody else is paying attention and starting to do that. No, kidding. But there is that opportunity. But what's also going to happen is that as rates come down, which is going to happen at some point in the future, that money flow is going to go back. And where is it going to go? Well, it's going to go back into stocks, right? So it's kind of an interesting one, I think. And secondly, momentum. This is Goldman Sachs's momentum indicator. And look at where we are. We're here. Normally you're in these bands. So we're at like crazily high levels, higher than December 2021 and all of that. And what does that mean? It means it's a short-term traders market. And I did a little video on that on the weekend. You look at stocks and you look at NVIDIA, right? It's okay. It moved a lot. It's down now. It's now down 1% pre-market. It was up just now pre-market, but it's 1%. Look at that. You can barely make out the difference between closing and opening price. So it's not like a cataclysmic collapse. It's more of the stocks with the most momentum go up. Now, one reason stocks down a little bit this morning is China. So Chinese equities are getting punished a little bit. NIO down 1/3%, PDD down 3.5%. And why is that? Because they've cut interest rates, but not enough. So people were expecting a bigger bit of stimulus. We're getting a little bit less. So people are kind of like, yeah, that wasn't really good enough. And then you got a teeny bit of profit taking on AI stocks like Adobe, and I put out a video yesterday, Amazon down 0.8%. These are not big moves, right? Apple is down 0.6%, Netflix down 0.5 point. But if you consider the rally that they've been through, it isn't really like anything yet. Look at Apple there. Like, what's that all about? Like, you can barely make that out, right? It still looks technically as bullish as can be, and we're still above the Jan 2022 highs. And people are saying, oh, that's an all-time high. That's a really bad thing. If you're a trader, if you're a technical trader and you make trades for a couple of weeks or maybe months, probably weeks, then you are loving this because there is no resistance above. There is no one who's suddenly selling because you got back to their original share price or they've just made a profit. No, literally every single person who's ever bought Apple has made money out of Apple. So that's a good thing, right? There isn't really that selling pressure. When you are down here and then you go back up, then all the Muppets who bought on the way down, a lot of them will start to exit again because they go back to zero, right? You get selling pressure or they get back to a profit level and they want to take it. But you're up here, you're like, there's nothing above you. That is actually, from a trading point of view, the perfect setup. I'm not saying throw your money at Apple. This is just an example of a chart, but it's I think people don't really understand the way people trade. Don't forget to finger that like button, says Bowman. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Somebody's paying attention, and we can definitely look at all your favorite stocks and everything else. And Nelly, welcome to the team. Gary, Peter, Jerome, Nick, Kyle, Andrea. So nice to see so many of you on here. You missed the first few seconds of the stream. Yeah, I tried to turn off the ads at the beginning, but there doesn't seem to be an option for that. which is strange. I guess they didn't want. Maybe, I should whisper some conspiracy things in the first 30 seconds, see what happens there. Now, in terms of macro, not a lot today. Okay, Bullard spoke. And then tomorrow, we get Fed Chair Powell testimony. So everybody's going to be hanging on every word of that Muppet again. And then Cook and Jefferson and everybody else talking as well. But in terms of jobs data, Thursday, that's kind of a big one. And then Friday, I thought there was something Friday. No, just Fed speeches. Like they're just, the boy band is back on tour and they're trying to tell the market can't rally anymore, that inflation will come down and that they are resolved to raise their rates more if need be. And I just still don't believe it. I think we're done with rate hikes. I don't really see it. In an intro, Winston woofing the charts up. We could do that. We can make a little video, or Winston rolling in mud or something. That's actually a really, really good idea, Felix. I like it. Good morning to you, Felix. Nice to see so many of the coaching gang assembled here this morning. So if you've got questions, feel free to chuck them out there. Big story also from Bloomberg this morning, which surprised me that they're running with that, quite frankly, is the Alibaba story. And that is that Daniel Zhang is stepping down, and the old guard's coming back, which is kind of surprising. So some real efforts there to turn Alibaba around, or at least turn Alibaba in some direction. I'm not quite sure which direction. But yeah, so kind of an interesting one. He's stepping out. I guess it sort of makes sense. I mean, I think he was pushing to drive Alibaba with the cloud business, and now the cloud business is being sold. So his vision is kind of gone. So it kind of makes sense. Are the machines what makes the market move post and pre-market, says Kelly? Probably not. I mean, there's a little bit of that, but you tend to get, let me open you up a pre-market chart. There's something like ES, which is the S&P futures. So you get, if you've got a minute chart, some movements and some volume pre-market, but it usually isn't a lot. There usually isn't a great deal going on here. So yeah, we've come up a bit, but it's not like that much. We're down 0.26% here from yesterday, or from Friday. But where is Friday? Friday is somewhere here. They tend to really only give you big spikes in volumes. Here is a spike. That was probably an algo trade. How big was that? That was, still only 1,700 shares. It's not that big. I mean, now almost 1,500. It might be an algo that's doing these. You tend to get it more if there's news pre-market, so like inflation data out or something like that pre-market, and then yeah, you see those massive spikes, and that's algorithms. But most of the time, institutions trade in open market hours, about an hour and a half, 2 hours into the market. Chamath, I don't like to speak ill of people, but I'm not a fan. I think if you ever have a self-serving chap, then that's the definition of a self-serving chap. Mike says Polestar no longer meets UK ISA requirements. Why is that? What's the UK ISA requirement? It's a US New York Stock Exchange listed stock. I don't know what the requirement is there. What year did investors start listening to Muppets? The Muppet Show is pretty old, isn't it? I think it's about as old as democracy all around. If you haven't already grabbed one of the last seats on the live trading training tomorrow, do felixschwenzer.com/webinar. I'll ping out one more email for today, and then I think we're probably full. Mark says Palantir. Super happy to look at that, Mark. So if you look at, let me just resize this a little bit. PLTR, really, really not on a minute chart. Minute charts are silly. Mini charts are for very, very silly people who like to waste their time staring at charts. So what's there to like about this? Well, you are above the moving averages since, earnings. And then we broke through that level here. Can you see that yellow line there? I'll make it a little bigger. On May 17th. So that was sort of the technical buy. And then you might have been worried about that peak here as a resistance line, but we sailed through that in one day. And then we kept going up and up and up. And then there was another one over here, 1478 or thereabouts. And we sailed through that one, and it just keeps going up. And look at the volume down here. Like it goes the volume is really, really quite strong, and it's a little hard to see, but down here is the volume. It's actually very strong. The only thing I watch out for is the last couple of days, volume tends to be trending down a little bit. So there's a little bit of strength leaving the building. And that sort of does that consolidation. So you're kind of wondering, are we going into a consolidation phase, or do we keep going? Now, the challenge with something like Palantir is that we've been much, much higher. We have been much, much higher. No, I don't know how many bag holders there are left who bought in the 20s and who are still holding it and are therefore likely to exit as we go up. Well, you could find out with something like that. Yeah, so you see there was a lot of trading going on up here, right, in the 2025s, and that's what I was talking about with Apple or Nvidia. Like, if you're at all-time highs, it's actually kind of a nice thing. No one's going to sell. I mean, some people will take profits, but there's no selling pressure in the sense of like, bloody hell, I've been holding on to this dead dodo for 2 years. Now I'm getting out at zero, so I don't have to tell my wife, which is the psychology of many an investor. So that's kind of a little bit here with Palantir, that, as we go higher into the 20s, if we do, I'm not saying we will, but if we did, then I think there will be some selling pressure up there. So that's something to watch out for. Why does the pre-post market begin exist? Well, people just like to trade, don't they? I mean, it's fun. I think originally probably to maybe give funds a chance to unwind screw ups. There's an auction at the end of the day, right? Maybe it just gives you a little bit of extra time. But some people are arguing you should have 24-hour trading. And, in a sense, you do for some stocks that are dual listed. You sort of do. Like a bar, Hong Kong, New York, almost the opposite side of the world. Shoeless Joe, do you think any risk of SoFi's delinquency rate becoming a problem for the company during the recession? None of this is financial advice, but I don't think so, because their credit scores are super high, much, much higher than the average. So the people who are SoFi customers typically have a pretty good income. Yes, they have student debt, but they have pretty good income. So I don't think that's a big deal. There'll be a little bit of that, but they also make provisions for that every quarter. So I don't think that's a big deal. It's more of a big deal if you're in the buy now, pay later type space, but people are literally going to run out of money. What can you say about PayPal? Great business, dominant player, and moronic management. That's what I'd say. Look at that. Jan, you're right that IBKR only shows open interest while the market's open. You know what you can do, Jan? You can just open a Thinkorswim account, like a paper account. I mean, you don't have to put in your passports or anything like that. Just open that, and I think they'll kill it every 90 days. But if you're just paper trading with it, I don't think you're really causing any harm there. That's maybe one thing I would do. Mike is hoping Palantir is going to consolidate around $17. Well, it seems to be potentially doing a little bit of consolidation here. We'll see. Be interesting to see today. Down a little bit this morning, but yeah, $17 was kind of the resistance, and at the moment trading at 16. So it seems to be sort of where it's pinging around at the moment. Clutch, you didn't get a notification from us. Have a look in your spam. You should get an email with a confirmation, and then you should get a reminder, and you should get a link to the event, Clutch. But if you really don't, then ping me an email, and I'll gladly send it over. Sometimes the inbox algorithms eat notifications. It happens from time to time. EMC is asking Tesla, which I made a bit of TA on the weekend. This is how sophisticated I do this. I do this in a notepad. I like notepads. They're very, very clean. These are tickers I thought looked relatively bullish. This is not buy advice, but any way, shape, or form. Bearish, Disney docu, and then some to watch that might go one way or the other. And that's kind of, actually, for me, that's always the most interesting. Is like you want to catch it like as it's happening, not like a week later, right? So yeah, Tesla still looks pretty bullish to me. Because it's just gone up and up and up and up and up, and it's broken through its moving average lines here. The yellow line there is the 50-day, and then as we sort of broke through the 208 here, that one, and then that one here, 217. That was bullish. We go up some more. There's another little peak here at 237. We break through that, and now where's the next one? Well, the next one really isn't until up there, 314, which is sort of a nice, sort of a head and shoulder type thing, isn't it? It's one of these that basically tells you it's going to go down, and we've managed to reverse that. So could you argue that was the opposite? Possibly. I'm not a huge fan of these patterns. I look more for moving averages and volume. But yeah, you could sort of say that that shoots it back up, and it certainly has. Volume, I know it's a little bit small down here, but let me make that a little bit bigger. Why am I painting? There we go. Down there, that little volume bar, you see it's very nicely trending up. You see that? So that's important. You want the volume to keep going up as the stock moves up. Watch out for that. As soon as the volume starts dropping off, you are starting to hit some resistance points here. So to me, it looks very good. Doesn't mean you should chuck all your money out of it, obviously. Shooters Joe, if you got headhunted to become the new PayPal CEO, I would refuse the job. I don't think I'm qualified to run that organization in any way, shape, or form, nor would I have any wish to run tens of thousands of employees. Can't think of anything worse, to be honest with you. I just think, okay, in a nutshell, I think you want to be a consumer-focused last-mile payment operator, where if I'm going to pay somewhere, I want to use PayPal because it's the most trusted form of payment. And I want to kind of compete here with like Visa, Master, Amex. That's kind of where I want to go, like the where Square, sort of started out doing that. PayPal is moved from being the dominant online payment platform to doing a lot of offline. And then it's sort of gone, well, why don't we just do stuff where we're not visible? Why don't we power Amazon's backend? Anyone who's ever worked with Amazon knows they get screwed. Inevitably, they will copy you and replace you because they've got the capacity. They no longer need you. Amazon is going to do its own payment processing. Watch this space. That's my prediction. So I don't really get those deals. I really don't get it. So I just don't really understand their focus. I think, yeah, Venmo, great business. I mean, all of that. But where are they hitting Apple Pay hard? Like that's, why is the product that much better? Apple has a savings account. Does PayPal have a savings account? Well, not really, sort of, not really. That's what I don't really get. Like, where is the vision to be the number one trusted digital payment everything? That's what I would aim to be, because they have a tremendous brand, a tremendous business. So anyway, so that's where we are on that rant. Oleg says end phase. Okay, glad to look at that. Let me make myself a little bit smaller here. Let me move that over a little bit as well. End phase. If you guys haven't already yet, tomorrow is our live trading webinar. We'll go into a lot more depth of strategy and so on. So sign up for that. Link is down below, felixfriends.org/webinar, felixfriends.org/webinar. It's live at 11 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow. So, okay, so what happened here? If you go back a little bit, let me get a pen. You topped out up here, right? Double top. That's usually not good. You then had a lower high. That wasn't good. You broke through the 50-day moving average line. That was the please sell me warning. And then you have this tremendous line of lower highs, right? It just keeps going down and down and down and down. Okay, you had one breakout here, but didn't really go anywhere and basically fizzled out at the previous high. So it wasn't never really a buy signal, because the buy signal kicks in when you cross the 50-day moving average and when you exceed the previous peak. We didn't. So it never was. It was just like a false little bit of excitement. And then, we fall off the face of the earth. And after the drop, we don't consolidate, we go lower, right? So it's kind of just not looking very, very good. And now, yeah, we're kind of bobbing around the 15-day moving average line, but it's still pointing to the molds. And the buy signal, where would it come in? Maybe if you cross the 200-day moving average, I don't know really. Sorry, up here, 200-day moving average, or maybe a little sooner here at 230. So to me, this still looks really bad. Sorry, Oleg. Kiwi, what should you do with the 9,000 SoFi shares bought at 909? Like, I really, really, really am not permitted to answer that question. That would be direct financial advice and be a tremendous violation of every SEC rule out there. So what I would say to you is, why did you buy them? What was your plan when you're buying them? What was your exit when you were buying them? Did you write down what your rules are, the reasons for getting in, the reasons for getting out? You probably didn't. Most people don't, but start doing it now and do it for every single buy you do in the future. Get a notebook, spreadsheet, whatever, and write it in it. Page per stock will do, or if you're a spreadsheet kind of a guy, then use that. You need to have that written down, because otherwise you're always like, well, what do I do now? Right now I'm down, you're down a little bit, and you don't know what to do, and you don't know how long to hold it for, and what's the plan? Where you're going to add more into it? Like, what's your time horizon? Like, and sorry, I'm not answering your question. I don't mean to tell you off in any way, shape, or form, Kiwi. It's completely natural what you've done. This is what 99% of investors do. But the professionals, the traders, the Wall Street guys, they don't do that. They know when they're getting in, they know when they're getting out, and they have some clear rules here. So yeah, SoFi topped out at basically the March 22 high here, for various reasons. Well, a lot of this up was a squeeze. That has something to do with it. And the guys getting squeezed didn't like it. So I think that has something to do with it. That that and every rally does end at some point. So the real question is, like, where is the support? It's kind of hard to see. Like, we're now trading at the Feb 23 high or the August 2022 high. SoFi is a very, very volatile stock. So I would always say either it's a short-term trader setup, in which case you need to have those rules, or it's a long-term 10 years. And I think this company is going to disrupt banking. And you watch the metrics, you watch the margins, you watch that they're growing, you watch that they're doing the right thing, and then you kind of keep accumulating. And I would probably do the accumulation slowly and gradually, and don't ever make it into an enormous position. C2, you're very kind. Well, smash the like button. I would appreciate that. Do you expect some market pullback after Fed meeting this week? Fed meeting this week? You mean the testimony on Wednesday? Depends on what he says. I mean, if he comes out swinging in a hawkish mood, then possibly. Or if they're going to just talk about the debt ceiling and the unsustainability of nonsense, or how ethnic minorities are disadvantaged, that sort of thing, which is what they often talk about, then it's not going to have any impact whatsoever. We certainly look at that. Andrea says PayPal has no competitors in Italy. Really? None? You don't have anyone? No? Really? When will the US pay more for debt interest than the defense budget? Oh, I think we're already there. Jerome, enjoy your scuba diving in Granada. Someone's got to do it. It's a tough life. Enjoy it. Duncan says, increase the likes, guys. I appreciate that. Thank you. Adam, good morning to you. Appreciate you tuning in. Utsaf, I don't do copy trading. I don't encourage people to come in and just copy stuff, because you don't learn a thing. So yes, I share my trades with the student community. And you guys, I'll explain to you what I do. Like, we did a coaching call on the weekend about what we did with the Intel trade last week, for example, which is a trade that went in the wrong direction. We turned it around and it's making money. But basically, if you want to have an interest in that, then you need to make the commitment to learn, because I don't believe in the trading signal thing. I don't think that is really is a route to happiness. Jan, you're a good man. You're a law-abiding citizen. A lot of our Europeans do open Thinkorswim accounts. You just have to fib about where you're based, but you don't have to do that. You could also open a Tasty account. That should give you the open interest. Otherwise, I wonder if something like Yahoo Finance might give you the same data, Jan. Possible. NA, that's very kind of you. Appreciate that. Yeah, that video was pretty popular on the weekend. Really nice. And like, I think 500 people subscribed to the channel on Saturday or something, which made my day while I was at Polo, having a tough day. Which bank have you worked for, my friend? Macquarie. What do you think about news and outlook for Intel, says Raul. So I was thinking, I did a trade on Intel, thinking Intel was going to miss on the AI rally. I just thought it's not going to go anywhere. And it was trading literally like around here, it wasn't going anywhere. And I was like, brilliant, it's not going to go anywhere. It's just going to bob sideways. And then it blew the heck out. And my break even, I think, was 35.60. So, we're in loss territory. But if you look at the trade right now, it's up $300 because we can adjust. And that's why I love options, because we can do these things. Volume's going up, stocks going up. So it looks like a really nice, strong bull rally there. They've agreed with the Germans. The Germans have agreed to give them a very large subsidy. I am German. I think I'm allowed to take a piss out of the Germans, aren't I, Raoul? And they're building a 10 billion plant in Germany and are getting a whopper backhander there from the German government. So that's kind of nice for them. And they put out a new chip, which is apparently the best thing since sliced bread. And I'm still a little bit miffed that the stock took off and I didn't see it coming. But I didn't. But we're still making money, and that's the main thing. See, and Andrea, Jan, I think this is the difference between North and South Europeans. Andrea explains exactly how you can get a Think or Swim account, whereas the Northern Europeans say, no, it is not proper. Expires every 90 days. What is the best place to retire, Moon? That's an interesting one. It depends on, I think you want to write down what you want out of life, like what you enjoy and what you hate. Like I'd make those two lists, and then next to the hates, I'd write the opposite. Like sometimes that's easier for people to do. It's like they find it hard to like write down what they really love. And there are different places. I mean, different places for everybody. Like, I'm bobbing around between Monaco, Hong Kong, and London because I enjoy those places. But they also happen to be like the most expensive places to be in the world, which isn't for everybody. Not in terms of money, but just because they don't necessarily want those things. They don't necessarily want to go to really fancy dinners and nice hotels and that kind of thing. They might just be happier, sitting on a deserted beach somewhere. And I totally appreciate that, or just hiking or something. So I think it really depends on like what you want out of it. And then I'd make a list, and I've done this. I've made a spreadsheet of pretty much every country in the world, and I looked at security and taxes and staff levels and what's available locally and access and ability to travel and all these kind of things that are things that matter to me. So you have to make that list for you, and then you can start filtering and ping it over to me once you've done it. Thoughts on Nike earnings? When are Nike earnings? Well, they're a little bit out. 29th June. Tough one. I think because Foot Locker's earnings were bad. If you look at FL, they were really bad. I mean, minus 27, lost about 35% of the share price here on that, and okay, now sort of trying to find a bottom here. So that's kind of, Foot Locker sells a lot of Nike products, right? If you have ever been in one. So that's a little bit the challenge here, I think, is are we going to get one of those kicks in the groin? So I'd be a bit cautious, but to be honest with you, I'd be a bit cautious. It's a stock that moves quite a lot. It's surprising, but it moved 12% in December up at that time. So it could move 12% down, right? So it's a volatile beast. Do you think Rivian will stay alive? I wouldn't put $1 on it. What's the market cap now? Still 14 billion. 14 billion. It's kind of staggering, isn't it? How many cars have they sold? What's the revenue? 660 million revenue. So what's that? 14 divided by 0.6. It's trading at 23 times revenue. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Rivian, I must say. Remember the like, says Andrea. Absolutely. Babcock Lovera. That's an interesting one. I used to work for a law firm, and we did a lot of construction and infrastructure stuff, and Babcock was sort of a little bit part of that. But there's a headline out this morning saying Germany's population has increased more than ever on Ukrainian migration. And then yesterday was a thing out that the German socialist government calls for more defense manufacturing capacity in Germany. And you sort of think that's kind of weird. So if you're a German defense contractor, you'd be really happy that there is, or just German industry, you'd be really happy that there is a war going on in the Ukraine. You get highly qualified cheap labor, not in the sense that they're super cheap, but like just labor, and there wasn't much available. And you get massive orders from government. So if you ever want to be a conspiracy theorist, you think about where does the money flow with wars, right? So, but yeah, from a chart point of view, it's a challenging one because yeah, we've gone through the 30-day moving average, gone through all the moving averages, but you've got this massive set here of around that 650, 660 up to 680 range. You need to, I would say you need to break through the flat, break free of that to really get going here with this one. So I would be just a little bit cautious. And I'm also cautious with defense contractors. Why? Because I never know when the contracts are coming, and they come in lumpy, and it can really move stock prices a lot. So I personally try to stay clear of those. But yeah, that's something to think about. The other thing to think about is make sure you're signed up to our live trading training tomorrow. If you want to see me explain my entire strategy and then actually watch me trade live and ask me questions about it, go to felixfrenzelog.com/webinar. It's tomorrow, Wednesday, 11 a.m. live. Adam, your girlfriend was here and you didn't introduce her. You should have done. You should have picked me a message. I would have been delighted to see her. Do you speak German? I certainly do. It's my mother tongue. And Oleg, you have a point. Inflation data is going to look better because the peak was so high, right? Inflation was so high that relatively it doesn't need to come down that much to look tremendous. Some of you guys want to retire to Greece. That's a nice place. Absolutely. Ilan, see you on the training tomorrow. In Croatia, absolute heaven. You're quite right at that. Wherever the beer is cheap. You see, everybody has something important. See, for Danzo, it'll be a long spreadsheet of beer prices. Kibi wants to live in Monaco to look at the flash cars. Yeah, there are quite a lot of those around. FedEx, says Felix. It moves more than you think, right, on earnings. So last earnings, it moved 5% up and then 7%. So it's like almost 15%. And the time before that, it moved 21% down in a day. So for me, it's kind of untradeable as an earnings play, I would say. The rally is starting to look good. If we can break free of these sort of we need to be above maybe 240, I would say, to really break free of this, flatness around the market here. I think starting to technically look quite good, but the real question will be earnings. Utsav Lucid, I think it's a very risky play. Jacob Horn W, I don't know what that is. Oh, Palo Alto. Okay. Well, it's certainly enjoying the AI rally like everybody else is. And from a chart point of view, it just looks like a thing of beauty, right? There's no resistance, nothing else. But the smart money would have bought here at 213 because that's the previous peak, or maybe even possibly the braver solds a little lower at 202. But that's kind of it. So you kind of always have to think about, well, okay, we are now, 35 points higher, which is a lot for a $200 stock. Is this the smart point to go into it? That's I think, what you have to ask yourself. But there's nothing above it. So in theory, there's no resistance, right? It's not like you're getting to any more resistance levels. So I do think these AI plays have potentially a fair way to run. PayPal KKR deal. I have not. No, I have not. Look. Oh, they bought some loans of them. Oh, but it's a long-term partnership. Why does my question would be, why does PayPal want the cash released? Buybacks. Okay. Desperate management, I would say. Buybacks, you do buybacks when you've run out of ideas. You're like, well, and if you are like growing tremendously and everything is fantastic and you're just like such a cash machine, you don't know what to do with the stuff, then okay, fine. But I don't think that's really where PayPal is at. So I think it's like they're probably getting pressure from shareholders to do something. And so they're doing that. Backpfeifengesicht. That's an interesting one. What are your thoughts on tea? Hasn't made my list in a while. Keep looking at it. Quite like trading tea, but it just looks bearish as hell. And that recovery down here is nowhere near good enough. So it kind of like looks bearish, has looked bearish for a really long time, like a really long time, right? So how do you break that? I mean, look, you got lower lows and lower lows and lower lows since like, really long time, 2016. So as a fundamental play, I'd say it sucks. Yes, they pay a dividend and all of that, but it's still a crummy business. But technically, sort of short term, it's kind of in never land at the moment. So it needs to kind of break back through the moving averages, and then we can start to talk, probably back to like $19, $20, and then we can start to talk about it. Unless you just are a long-term bear on it, which is also fair enough, I think. Tempted by Etsy lately, says Alan. Etsy made my very sophisticated watch list over the weekend here. Etsy. It looks interesting, but it hasn't really so it's broken through just about the 50-day moving average line here. So that's kind of bullish-ish, but it needs to go a little higher at least. It's sort of that 98, maybe 100. I think that's kind of where you'd get some momentum going. It just hasn't done it yet. So it's kind of a neutral for me. It's kind of a, wait and see. Up pre-market, which is good, but not quite enough. They announced a buyback as well. What's the indicator at the chart bottom? It's the, I will confuse you forever indicator. It's, what's it called? I can't say I particularly recommend it. It's called SATA. The idea is that you put everything together, breakouts, moving averages, momentums, and resistance, for example, overhead resistance, which is the last line. That's actually one of the reasons I put it on. So resistance is blue down there, which is neutral. You ideally like that to be green. So because there's so much, the stock has been above the share price for so long that it is resistance. The Titanic indicator, indeed, it's a Titanic indicator. Those poor souls in a submarine today are not so happy about that comment, though, are they? Well, we do aim to offend. Shoeless Joe, do you need TA to be a strict buy and hold? I think if you're a strict, I'm just going to buy stocks every week or every month or every day forever after, and I just look at gross margins and earnings and RECE and all that kind of good stuff, then you probably don't, because you're just averaging in and you don't really care what the prices you're paying today. You're just like, in 10 years, I'll have a great average. And that's good. If you want to push that and make either your long-term buying selection a bit more proactive, then I think technical analysis is brilliant. If you want to trade, it's required. Nobody trades fundamentals. Like no one since like 1978. That's when the dinosaurs died, and no one's traded fundamentals since. So that's definitely something to do. You want to learn a bit more about how I trade, not just a little bit, but my entire strategy. I'm giving it away literally tomorrow. felixfriends.org/webinar. It'll be live. We also do some live trading together. So hopefully we get some interesting setups here. Everclear Boy says you're watching LZB. Now give the like button a smash, chaps. It always helps. Can never hurt. Lazy Boy. Earnings. Wow, that thing really moves on earnings. How do you trade that on earnings? That's a big one. You just make a bet on a big move. Is that what you're doing? That's kind of the way it looks. I mean, except for earnings, it looks like a pretty bearish setup to me. Like it's topped out up here. We've had like this series of lower lows. We just keep coming down. We're below the 30-day moving average. The breakout was kind of a false one, which doesn't help. So it's just, it looks pretty bearish to me, but that's just my view. Marvin Fisker. Yeah, I'm not a fan, I must say. Fisker, FSR. what does this chart say to you? The stock keeps falling, right? That's that's kind of all you need to know. I would say, like, no matter what happens, the stock keeps falling. So yeah, it hasn't broken out of that in any way, shape, or form. When was it last bullish? When was it last bullish? I'd say it was last bullish in March 2020, 21. That spike up there. That was a bullish thing, and that lasted 3 days. And ever since, it's been declining. Maybe that one was a bullish rally up here too. Sort of from 20 to 23 up. That was a nice one. Maybe a squeeze earnings. So yeah, no, that looks just, I mean, long-term short maybe. Bill, PayPal, we've just done that. Bill, maybe zoom back a little bit, and otherwise ask me again tomorrow. Gladly look at it when the chart looks a little bit different. If you haven't already, join our live free trading training tomorrow. You get my strategy and you get to watch me trade live. I'm also working on a little workbook, so you get some notes to take away with it. And I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you tuning in. I especially appreciate the 100 or so of you who found the like button. The rest of you, there is still hope. You could be reformed. You might be able to find it. And the algorithm will thank you, and I will thank you. And subscribe to the channel, chaps. I'll see you live tomorrow, pre-market. And otherwise, I'll put out some vids today on basically the important stuff that happens. Today, not a lot of macro news, but some interesting stuff coming out of China, some interesting stuff in the AI space. And then tomorrow, of course, Papa J. Powell testifies in Washington. And that's always a market-moving event. So we definitely want to be keeping our fingers on that one. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. And I hope to see you tomorrow.